logic model tab. So this is where you're really going to be thinking through the logic of your project. The logic model is part of a theory of project design called the logical framework. In different parts of the world, we use different words, we use different terminology to talk about the logical framework. Here in Canada, we call it results-based management. You may have heard of it as like a results chain. You may have seen it if you've been worked at all in the UK or with UK-based funders, that they have a logic model that works from left to right. In Canada and sort of more traditionally, logic models flow from top to bottom, where you start with your big picture goal, basically the vision of change that you want to create, and then you break it down into the milestones and levels of change that you're going to create to contribute to the achievement of that vision. So the language we've used in the project builder is based on the Canadian language, but you will find it's very easy to translate this if you are applying to, say, DFID in the UK or other European funders that may use slightly different words. But the concept is the same, the structure is the same, it just may have different words associated with it. So if we talk about the vision statement being the ultimate outcome, so what is the ultimate change that you're trying to create or contribute to? Intermediate outcomes would be the long-term impacts of your program. So if you're running a project over the course of 3 years, the intermediate level outcomes would be, what are the changes that you will directly have contributed to by the end of 3 years? Immediate outcomes are shorter term change. So they might be changes you'd expect to see, say, at the midway point of your program. And they're usually related not to behavior or practice, but rather to change in thinking. So impacts on people's level of knowledge or capacity or access. Outputs are the completion of the activities that you do through your project. So if you're running a clean water project, the completion of an output statement might be the installation of a water well. And the completion of that would be one of your outputs that would be contributing to, say, elimination of waterborne diseases, improved health, for example. Activities are the work that you do. So these are the tangible things that you and your project are going to do along the way. And inputs are the things that you need in order to do that work. Okay, and I've got a great little visual, colorful aid that you can use that we'll be sharing that sort of exemplifies that. This is how it looks in the project builder tool. You can see in column A here, it's got little prompts for what those levels of outcomes are. So the intermediate outcome is behavior change. So people are acting differently, doing things differently as a result of your project, or experiencing life differently. It can also be an experience change. Immediate outcomes are knowledge, skills, access, outputs, completion of activities by the project for your beneficiaries. Okay. Now these numbering here, you can feel free to ignore them or change them depending on what is the standard use in your own country or with the funder that you're addressing. The reason they're there is this is the way that our main government funding mechanism works. So when you apply for funding through the Canadian government, this is the way they number things in results-based management. It's also handy because as you go through other sections, you'll see these number codes that will refer to your logic model. Okay. Generally speaking, most funders are not going to want to see more than 3 intermediate level outcomes. And in fact, I would caution you that unless your project is like a long-term, like a 5-year program, you probably should try to stick to 2. just because it really does become a lot, a lot of work to be accomplished in one project if you have that many pillars of work. And you can see here, and again, sort of 3 immediate level outcomes contributing to each intermediate level outcome is sort of a standard number. I would caution you not to try to go more than that. And the way these arrows are there to act as a reminder that the completion of an output, so like the water well example, installation of a water well is supposed to provide access to clean drinking water, which helps prevent waterborne diseases in a particular community. So each level of change contributes to the bigger change above it in a logical way. I see Adila has a hand up. Would you like to ask a question? Oh. And it looks like she may have lost her connection right at that moment. So Katie, can you keep an eye when she's back connected?
Yes, yes. And one question coming in the chat too from Loretta, please can you explain more on the stages in the log frame? My audio did not come out well there for a minute. So maybe just reviewing or summarizing what you've just finished.
Sure. So when you're designing a project, we start sort of at the top of like the long-term visionary change you'd like to create, like better health in a community. The intermediate level change would be a behavior or an experience or practice change. The example I used was lower incidence of waterborne diseases. An immediate level outcome would be knowledge change, capacity change, access change. So in the water example, it could be improved access to clean drinking water in a community. An output is what you're going to do to contribute to those changes. So by installing a water well at the output level, you contribute to improved access to clean water, which contributes to the elimination of waterborne diseases, which contributes to improved health. Okay, so you work down when you're designing your project, but the impact works up. So each level of impact contributes to the level of impact above it. That helps. Does that help, Loretta? Okay, I see Adila's back.
Yeah, hello, can I be heard?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Hi.
Yeah, what you just said now made sense, but I wanted you to maybe take it one by one again like you did before. The intermediate, what is expected in the intermediate, then the immediate, and then the output.
Sure.
You know, just like that. I understood the different levels of the impact that is going to be made, but I am trying to understand what, you know, at each level that is expected. What kind of impact is expected at every level? I need to understand that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the water example is, so the ultimate outcome is your long-term visionary change. So in the water example, the long-term change would be improved health in a community overall. Your intermediate outcome, so this is, as we're working down here, this one here in column A, is your behavior or experience change. So this is how people's lives are going to look different, okay? So at the intermediate level outcome, the experience change I used in the water example is lower incidence of waterborne disease, okay? So that's an experience level change. At the immediate outcome level, we're talking about skills, knowledge, capacity, or access. So in this example, I used an access level change, which was improved access to clean drinking water. At the output level, this is about the completion of your project activity. So what are the things that you are going to do that are going to contribute to those outcomes? And in this case, I used the example of a water well having been installed in a community as the output. So that is the physical or the input of the project, what the project did, and it then results in those changes. So it's like a ripple effect, right? Where each you do something, and then that creates those ripple levels of change, as outlined in your logic model.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
You're welcome, Loretta. Thank you for asking for that, because I think that's such a crucial central point of that the rest of this kind of flows from. So it's very important to make sure we understand that part. Okay, we still have a hand up. I think seems to be cutting in and out. Attila. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But she looks to be frozen again. So let's maybe move on, and then we can come back to her question when she's connected again. So here we are. We're actually going to go through this now, looking at the slides too. So the ultimate outcome, your overall vision, everything flows from there. So that's really the change. That might be part of what you've got written in your vision statement in your case for support. What is it your organization or project is trying to achieve overall? It's very broad, and it does not have to be achievable. It can be aspirational, right? And it's certainly going to be bigger than any one project could possibly achieve. It's always written as the what, who, and where. So improved health for, say, children in community X. The intermediate level outcomes, behavior, practices, experience of specific people in a specific place. This is what you're going to try to achieve by the end of your project. And you will be trying to demonstrate that you are making progress in achieving it, although you don't have to completely have achieved it by the end of a project, especially if your project is shorter term, say just 1 or 2 years. Again, it's written as what, who, and where. So lower rates of waterborne illness among children in community X. And here's another little example here. I've got another example going around economic impact of a different project. Immediate level outcomes these are when you're thinking about how you report to yourselves and you report to your donors and your other stakeholders. These are what you can consider as your central project deliverables, because this is really the level of impact that you're controlling, right? So if you think about, say, for example, a training based program, what you can control is delivery of the training, and what you can control is how successful the training is in imparting new knowledge and understanding or capacity, right? So that is on you. If you do a good job of your training, people will leave your training with new skills and knowledge. You don't really have any control as a project as to whether those new skills or understanding result in changed behavior. You can provide mentorship, you can do follow-up, you can do all sorts of things to try to encourage it, but ultimately you can't really control that, and therefore you're a little bit less on the hook for proving it happened. Does that make sense? But immediate outcomes, the changes in capacity, access, knowledge, these are your actual deliverables. And if you're doing your job right, you should be able to prove that those things happened, that those changes occurred. And you should hold yourself accountable to that, right? As a project team. And if you're not seeing those results, then it's time to go back and rethink your approach to make changes to make sure that you can see those results occur. Because without those results, the behavior change is not going to be possible, and the visionary change is going to be lost. So these are direct results of your project. Again, they're written as what, who, and where. So improved access to clean drinking water by children in community X. I've got a couple other examples here. Improved knowledge of small business management best practices by women in community X. Adela's back online. We saw that your hand was up. Did you want to go back and ask your question? Adela?
Looks like Adela may not have a microphone connected.
Oh, okay. Perhaps then she can ask her question in the chat box. Adela, we noticed you had your hand up and we weren't sure if you had a question. So if you do, could you put it in the chat box and then Katie can bring it to my attention? Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions about the logic model and the connection between the outcomes at this stage? We can always come back to this later as well. Again, the outputs are the specific activities and services of your project. They're very measurable. So, 4 trainings provided for women in community X, or water well installed in community X. Very simple. Who is receiving what as a result of your project?